Sara Kuhl is the Network Operations Center Supervisor for Nex-Tech and manages NOC clients in 8 different states. An industry veteran, Sara has worked in telecommunications since 2000. She graduated from Fort Hays State University with a Bachelor of Business Administration and is CCNA and MEF CEP certified. Sara is a Western Kansas native and a mother of 6 kids. She's passionate, driven, and always up for a challenge. Doug Kuntz began his career in telecommunications in 1997 when 128K was more bandwidth than you could ever use. Doug is the Carrier Access Manager for Nex-Tech and provides fiber transport and carrier solutions across the United States. He anxiously awaits his first 100 gig opportunity. Doug is a volunteer fireman, hack golfer, and lover of beers. Welcome to NOC, not just another summer DIY project.
Thank you, Audrey. It's an honor to be here with Sara Kuhl, our NOC supervisor. Thank you for joining me. I know this wasn't kind of pushed on you, so appreciate you coming in and sharing your experiences as we built our NOC and maybe some lessons learned for some of those out there that are thinking about their own NOC services. So to start off, I want to talk about communication. Hold on. In the early days, back in the early days, the 50s, communications weren't really easy. You had to have a switchboard operator. The phones were pretty primitive, but all in all, the networks were pretty simple, easy to manage, whatnot. They weren't necessarily easy to build, though. This is an old CAT. These are actual pictures from our rural telephone cooperative of our guys actually building copper. Plowing fiber, probably not fiber in this picture, probably copper. And life was pretty simple, easy to manage. Here's our fleet of vehicles. Rural Telephone Cooperative is our parent company. I kind of wanted to talk about some of our roots there, but we were pretty good at managing voice services back then. Everything was going well until Dan Quayle invented the internet. In the early 90s, and the internet kind of rocked our world. That's about when I came in. Dial-up networking was big. People didn't really even hear of DSL or even fiber at the time, but fiber to the home was being talked about. I tell people that we were one of the first fiber to the home providers back in 1996. Yes, 1996. We actually have an article in the Wall Street Journal back in 1997, February 97, that talks about when we overbuilt the Hill City Exchange, and it created a lot of static. I believe it was one of the first true tests of the 1996 Telecom Act, where we really overbuilt a Sprint United Exchange because their services just weren't up to par. So fiber to the home, first company to build fiber to an entire exchange, and that's Hill City. So shortly after building fiber, we actually, Golden Bell Telephone and ourselves invested in a company called Nex-Tech Wireless. Some of you on the call may have seen them out and about, or maybe even customers of them, but a cellular company. We felt we needed to be in the wireless industry, and Nex-Tech Wireless was born. There was a lot of talk about 4G. Nex-Tech Wireless was dabbling with the 4G. Verizon was talking about 4G. I think they were looking as Kansas as one of the test pilots, because back in the 2000s, there was a lot of telcos in Kansas that were actually building fiber out. So it was a good test market for them. They were talking 4G and what the requirements to do that were. We were going to need carrier grade Ethernet. So, our network was seeing exponential growth. We're adding tons of new intelligent network elements. Some of those old T1s were being replaced with Ethernet to some of our enterprise type customers. We knew we needed to implement a carrier grade network. We were evaluating a lot of those carrier grade transports systems, and it wasn't long, and we really knew we needed eyes on our network, 24/7. And Sara, you were actually with the company back in 2007, and were part of actually we built a NOC ourselves. So to walk us through what that looked like.
Sure. So in 2007, when we started the NOC, there was a couple of reasons. Is one, back to what Doug was saying about carrier Ethernet and the cell sites, and we just needed more eyes on the network. And then the big thing was letting our guys sleep. We had techs that were getting burned out from getting notified all the time. And so using internal resources, I personally came from our help desk, and a couple others came from the help desk. There's still 3 of us from the original team that are still on the NOC.
Awesome.
And we implemented a fully staffed 24/7 NOC back in 2007 that just monitored Nex-Tech's network.
And that would even help, some of our maintenances we do at night were hours away.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd have technicians traveling hours, and, we never knew if they got home at night. At least they could say, hey, I'm leaving, I'm done. And if they didn't call in within 2 hours or so, we knew that, hey, we better check on them, especially bad weather too,
Absolutely.
right?
There was a few of those storms that we got a little nervous for our guys going out there.
I've seen some of our local techs bather some storms, and it's nice to have somebody, maybe a big brother, looking out for them.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for taking care of them.
Absolutely.
So shortly after that, the 29 member companies, 29 independent companies within Kansas built a company called Kansas Fiber Network. And they were the new statewide fiber network, and they were seeing aggressive growth. They were looking at the Verizon backhaul. I think they were very successful in that. Nex-Tech Wireless was adding towers, and they just seen, extensive growth. And, with that, they had growing pains and asked us, hey, Nex-Tech, you guys have a NOC. We're kind of needing a NOC. How about we work together until we can get on our feet? And so we did. We took on monitoring their network for them while they were growing. And eventually, I think their intent was to just maybe take that back themselves. But really, they put our feet under us. As we got better, they asked us to do more. Sara, can you talk about what that looked like, what the NOC looked like in early stages, and then how that grew?
Well, definitely in the beginning, we were just that answering service. We took their calls when they had, companies calling in saying their circuits were down. I mean, that was us. We were just an answering service, and then we passed the information on. But as we grew, we started getting their alarms, actually triaging things, helping with troubleshooting, and second level troubleshooting, configurations in the second level troubleshooting. And so we just kept growing with them. As they grew, we were able to provide more services for them.
So you had staffed the NOC initially just really for Nex-Tech needs,
Mm-hmm.
Probably minimal. And then we're adding a client here. How did that work out? How are you able to just take on another company like that?
Well, we definitely had to grow. I mean, we're 24/7. We staff across 3 shifts with multiple skill sets ranging from just our tech ones all the way up to our senior techs and actually our NOC engineer as well. And so we had to grow. We had to add more techs, and we started out with just 2 or 3, an extra 1 per shift, and we've just grown over time. It was important for us to have that leadership and supervision on the different shifts. So we had tech leads on each of the shifts, and a huge problem for probably any group, but especially for the NOC, has been accounting for vacation, sick leave, training. We do run a tight ship, and so we've had a wonderful team that's always been great about helping cover for everybody. It's always been important to have that shift handoff. As one shift comes on, the next shift has got to pass all that information on. And so it's always been very important for us to seek efficiencies as well, and then automate where possible. We need to work smarter, not harder. And so we've automated as many of our systems, from our ticketing to our reporting to our monitoring, to try to help. So you don't always have to hire more people. You can just work smarter.
And even hiring can be difficult at times. I often get questions like, where do you find people? Because we got some of the greatest people out there. And, we were very fortunate that the school out in Goodland years ago, the telecom school, those guys went out there, guys and gals, went to the telecom school, and they went out to the world, and the Sprints and the Nortels of the world, and got married and had kids, and they decided, hey, I don't want to raise my kids out in the big city. I want to come back to rural America, back to my roots. So we've been able to hire a lot of those people. They came back. And then we've got a neat partnership, I shouldn't say partnership, with Fort Hays. We're fortunate to have Fort Hays State University, where a lot of their IT majors may work in our help desk. You know, no different than Sara started in the help desk. Mark and Marie, all three started in the help desk, still with us. And so they work part-time in our help desk. And then as they as they graduate from Fort Hays, you know, they decide that, hey, Nex-Tech's a great company. I want a career here. And they may continue working, but maybe full-time. Or like she said, she came from the help desk. We steal a lot of the people from Amy out of the help desk. We do provide our own internal help desk during the daytime. So it's nice to be able to find that resource to hire. And I think you've got a good thing going there, right?
Absolutely. We've got several of our staff has come from our internal help desk, and it's been great because they already have a lot of those skills.
So we talk about people, and you talk about efficiencies, the other thing we need to talk about. So I know that you've got a lot of manufacturers, you know, and whatnot. So what is it? How do we bring those efficiencies together?
Well, that's where we bring in, you'll hear the phrase single pane of glass. And so it's really difficult to become an expert in every system out there. And there's so many from all the different NMS systems and just the equipment vendors and manufacturers. So we try to bring everything into one system, and we get all of the SNMP traps, we get our sets and clears, we can do alarm sorting, we filter out the noise or the nuisance alarming, and we do that so we don't have to watch millions of alarms, and we do literally get millions of alarms and traps. I should call them traps. We get millions of traps every month, and so we filter out so much of that so we only see the important things. And so we use that using Cordell's system.
So you know that we put a alarm collector through Cordell. We'd researched all the different companies out there, and Cordell Networks had an alarm collector and a system we call CNAS that was really going to solve all of those problems. And that's really where we track all the set and clears and the historical data and SNMP traps. You know, I heard you mention SNMP traps. Now, that stands for Simple Network Management Protocol, right? Mm-hmm. But what I know about SNMP is that there's nothing simple about it. Why would you even deal with that, right? Because it's a lot of noise in my head from the dumb ball guy perspective. So how do you use those?
So what we do is in our NMS system, our monitoring system, is that we get these traps in and we make rules, we write rules so that we can pare them down into easily readable alarms. So we take all of that, I'm going to call it gibberish, out of a SNMP trap, and we pare it down using these rules and using simplified tables for validation. And so we can get it into something that's readable. So we take those IP addresses and we turn it into something that says a chassis slot or a chassis in a system and a slot and everything. And so we can tell a lot more detail, or we can tell that this one is for the Weber central office and that the generator is running. And so while at a glance you can look at those and you can probably get it, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, you're not going to want to have to decipher that. So we made it simple. And what's even more awesome about this system is we can actually go in and put whatever we want into it. So if we want to put detail into it regarding call out immediately, we can add that in, or disregard it to
action items.
Absolutely. So it works out really well.
Okay, cool. So you actually simplified the SNMP that's supposed to be simple already. So you talked about that single pane of glass, and that's where the magic happens, or what walk us through that single pane of glass.
So this screen that we're looking at right now is that single pane of glass. So this is seen as, this is what we call our dynamic display. And so
is that from Cordell?
This is from Cordell.
Awesome. And
all of our alarms that we get, or all of our traps that we have already determined that are important to look at, we categorize them. We do it by color. So purple's critical, red is major, minor is yellow, and that way we know what's important to look at. And so we have an event number for everything. So anything that's tied to that particular event, whether it's a clear, whether somebody commented or acknowledged that alarm, it's all tied to that event number. And then we have, it's got the local time, how long it's been alarmed, the severity. We have a site on there so we can tell actually where the central office is, where it's at, where the site, the cell site, or where the cabinet is. It gives us a status as well. Did anybody acknowledge it? Has anybody commented on it? And then lastly, it gives us that information that we've pared down to make it easy to read. And again, so this is where we can go in and put more information into it. Call out, don't call out, where we can put those action items.
So what I'm seeing, Sarah, here is I see PRTG out there. I see SolarWinds. I see Metaswitch, Obsidian. Those are all great companies. So we're not necessarily replacing them.
No.
This complements all of those other systems out there, brings it into that single pane of glass. Is that where you understand that?
Yeah, that's exactly. They all report back into these alarm collectors, those IST 4000s, and that's where all of the information gets filtered into. And so it's keeps us from having to watch 20 screens where we can just watch one.
Awesome. Awesome. So that takes us into what we have, the daily Chronics report. Every morning we send out a Chronics report. This is actually going to our technicians. We actually take all of those set and clears from that, and we categorize them from the most set and clears to the least, and I call it the top talkers. But we actually, developers went in and using the EQSSP, that's equipment shelf slot position or somehow like that. But the plant information out of our billing system, you can see over here, Mac is our billing system. And we can see that Steve Perry, yes, Steve Perry does reside over here on 123 Journey Lane within Nex-Tech. Looks like Plainville. Looks like it's a Plainville office. Gosh, even the dumb ball guy can read it.
Must be where he retired.
And you know, he's got an alarm going on, so this goes out to our technicians every morning, so they can see that there's already a trouble ticket open, and they want to work on that right away, whatnot. But we also have that for all of our equipment manufacturers. This one just happens to be, we're not picking on Calix, we just happen to have a lot of Calix within our network, so they show up quite frequently. Could be bad batteries, bad laser, dirty optics, you know, whatever. But we also have that, what I call that top talkers report, and it gives us the same thing, but you know, maybe across other equipment manufacturers, so that we can see if something's starting to act up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of like looking for that needle in the haystack.
And that's what's really difficult. I mean, even with the system like CNAS, if something is bouncing, you know, an alarm that's just setting and clearing, you're not going to catch it.
No.
Honestly, my guys sit there watching those screens all day, but if it's just going to come in and out, they're not going to catch it. And so there's that second report you talked about, which is another chronic report, and it brings up all of the alarms that came in a day. So you can see that in this particular example here, that like we had a SFPB receive power low alarm, started out really simple, came in 30 times a day. Okay, well, maybe that's not a big deal. Then it started creeping up and you started seeing it. Well, we might not have caught it because it was coming in and out so quick, but we've got this rate reporting that we can see that it's starting to become a problem, and we were able to identify it before it actually became a real problem. So it's, you know, it might just be a little bit of flapping here and there. Customers maybe not even going to notice, but then as time goes on, it can actually cause a major outage.
Yeah. So when you have an event like this, what happens?
Well, the important thing is we've got to open a ticket. We have a saying, it's not in the ticket, it didn't happen. And I probably say that on a daily basis, which is probably really annoying. But it's really important for us to open the ticket. And so what we look for is we try to do as much information into a ticket as possible, and we try to have everything as reportable as possible. So we've got TAC case reporting, we can report on all the fields. And a lot of this reporting is important for helping eliminate service outage credits, especially during force majeure events. We have the ability to do parent-child ticketing, and even in some cases with some of our other ticketing systems, we can even do email support as well within that ticketing. So.
Okay, and it's mobile friendly?
Yes.
And TAC case, I see TAC case on there. I always like the TAC case. People, why would you track TAC cases? I often tell clients or you know, when you've got a known bug within the network and you've got a TAC case going on, and it's always important to track those tickets that are associated with that particular TAC case. when that manufacturer comes back to you asking to support renew your support agreement, you can quickly go in and run a report. It's important to be able to report on all those fields. You can go in and run reports off of that TAC case and say, hey, Mr. Manufacturer, look at all these service affecting cases that were related to the bug that we had. Maybe help negotiate a discount, right?
Yeah. And
save some money.
something else that we tie in with the ticketing as well is something we call Sitebook, and this is within CNAS, Cordell's NMS system. And what it does is it allows us to document everything about every site that we have. And when we say site, we mean central office, cabinet, cell site, whatever needs to be documented, we are entering into that Sitebook. So we've got the address, we've got 911 information, we've got generator information, and most importantly, power, who the power company is. We have a meter number, all of that contact information.
So can you describe some of the normal functions, if there is things such as normal?
Normal is kind of a funny word, although lately fiber cuts are normal. So basically it's just mainly problem management and just during network and customer outages. So we're identifying our scope of impact and the areas affected. We're providing notifications and updates appropriately. We provide a lot of that first and second level triage. And really, again, it's just so that we can kind of identify the important things, we can prioritize so that techs can get some sleep. Because if not, we're going to be calling them all the time, just going, hey, we got an alarm. And we don't want to be that answering service. Ticketing and escalation, and then just managing that customer communication so that when customers call in to say, hey, what's going on with this outage, they're only calling into one place versus trying to bug that staff that's trying to fix the issue at the time.
You can't fix things if you're answering phone calls.
Exactly. So we mitigate a lot of that. And then lastly, it's just for whoever feels comfortable with it, we do NID configuration, 2544 testing, monitoring, alarming, and SLA conformance reporting as well.
Wow, that's a lot. So also sounds like we have a lot of data to evaluate, right?
Right. And I mentioned that we get upwards of millions of traps, and I think last month was 5 million traps.
Is that a quiet month or a busy month?
That's an average month.
Average.
We've hit up to 8 to 10 million on the busy months. So it's a lot of data, and we store that for up to a year. And we use all of that information. All of it's reportable. We can go back and grab it at any time if somebody wants to say, hey, has this been bouncing? And so we can actually go back and look. Maybe it was just enough that it wasn't hitting that anomaly status. But
look for patterns.
Exactly. So we can go back and check all those out. We do service assurance to verify SLA conformance for wireless carriers. We mentioned the chronic alarms to try to get that proactive approach. And then a huge thing for us is the daily briefings. We provide a daily summary that we provide out via email every morning to our clients, and then internally as well, of just a summary of everything that happened during the day. So every ticket that was open, any event that happened, and we're providing just a summary of those updates of everything that happened so that in a short span, somebody can take a look at that and figure out what's important.
At a glance, management can see what happened last night with the maintenance, cuts, outages, right, whatnot.
And then if any more information is needed, they can call in or they can read the ticket. And we also provide the ticket reports, whether it's for break fix or for maintenances.
I see. So we talked about efficiencies earlier. I know service advisories, or some people call them NOFAs. I like service advisories because I don't know what NOFA stand. What's NOFA stand for?
Notice of field advisory.
Oh, okay. Well, service advisor. So, I know that can be a difficult task. I talk to a lot of clients and they're all using spreadsheets. Is that normal?
For a lot of people, yes, it is. And in the beginning, that's how we did it. And time consuming is a nice way of putting it. It would take us hours to do service advisories for maintenances. And then when you have to do them for in outage situations, it's just that much longer because you're on the spot. And we would have to sort through spreadsheets and then send those emails out manually using distribution lists. It's not a great way to do that process. So internally, we took all that data that was in those spreadsheets and we developed a system we call NOC. And it's an automated service advisory system where we can do those service advisories that used to take us hours in as little as 5 minutes. and on the long side 15. And so we can get that information out with accuracy and do updates in just a short amount of time.
With accuracy.
With
Because
accuracy.
I can
That's the
imagine
big-
spreadsheets are only as good as who's looking at them and sorting
Right.
them. So interesting. Good. So that sounds like a lot of you got a lot of knowledge within, you know, all the different manufacturers coming in that do a lot of troubleshooting, first level, second level. You know, I know. Talk to us about the knowledge of your staff.
So we do have multiple MEF CECP certified technicians. We've got a few Cisco certified technicians.
What's the MEF stand for?
Metro Ethernet Forum, and that's certified Ethernet. Hold on, now I'm going to get it right. Carrier Ethernet certified professional. I knew I was going to get one.
Sorry
of them
to put you on the spot.
That's all right.
But you did good.
But basically, I will be honest that we're not necessarily always going to be an expert on every one of these systems, but we do know and are very proficient with a variety of these manufacturers. Everybody on there we deal with in one capacity or the other. And so I mentioned earlier that my staff has a variety of skill sets from a Tech 1 to a senior tech. And so we've got multiple skill levels, and we are very proficient at these different NMS systems and troubleshooting in a lot of these systems.
And again, we talked about, you know, we're not here, CNAS and those are not necessarily a replacement for these NMS systems. It really complements them. You know, I see Circuit Vision out there. They're a great company. Ocular IP, great people over there, Raymond Chu and Scott Kelly. But those are all great systems. The CDN, we use their systems as well. But great products, great systems. We're just here to complement, not replace.
Right, and I kind of look at it like it's a call to it's that call to action. It's that ability to see it on one screen. But then you go, once you identify that there's an alarm, then you go use those systems, and that's where you do your troubleshooting at.
Awesome. So if we fast forward to today, 10 years from where we started, I wish I had a picture of our original NOC. This is our NOC today. Well, actually, this is probably 2 years old, to be apologize. But there's a lot to maintain it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. We started out with 4 huge big screen TVs.
Now, were they LED TVs or?
That would be nice, but we're talking, you know,
tube TVs?
We're talking tube TVs back in the day, and so we didn't have a lot of room. And in a very small room in a completely different building, and we realized the need that we needed to grow. And so we've actually had 2 moves since then, and we're in our home now, and we've got room to grow. So as we take on new clients and as we just expand, we've got the ability. And so it's been our NOC has gone up to, we actually have a staff of 17 at this point.
So the NOC, what would happen if this building was level? Let's say a tornado. Kansas is famous for tornadoes. What if we leveled this building? People weren't in it, right? They took cover.
Right.
But just a month ago, we had a scare.
We did. We had to. We had our sirens go off, and we had to go to our shelter. And actually, some of my staff actually did leave to go to a basement because we got to keep our people safe. And we actually have a disaster recovery plan. So if something happened in this building, we had a fire, we had a tornado, we actually will relocate to our internet help desk that's in downtown Hayes. And we're pretty much, everybody's got laptops. We can just pick up and go. If we even had to, everybody could work from home. We do have that ability, but we have the help desk all set up for us. It's ready to go where we can pick up from where we left off in about 20 minutes.
So that's good to know that, you know, if those are out there looking to build their NOC, it's important that you maybe have a disaster recovery plan. And we had never used the disaster recovery. We test it.
We test it yearly.
But during the pandemic, we
Yes.
actually implemented it, right? We split some staff down at the help desk. Now, Hayes and Victoria, we've got some mileage between them, so the chances of both towns getting leveled are pretty slim. But we're able to actually put it into action, so we know it works, right?
Yeah,
So,
we were a little nervous with the pandemic, and we split about half the team in one place or the other, and just so if something happened, we wouldn't all be wiped out.
awesome, good. So I guess that takes us. We're going to wrap up here real close. So I guess you you could actually, everybody on the meeting we talked about, this isn't a do-it-yourself type project that, maybe if you're looking at a NOC, you've got a couple options. You can do it in-house. You can try to implement a lot of the systems that we talked about today, so that you're not just that answering service. You need to be beneficial to your outside plant guys so that they can rely on you, because if you're just answering calls and opening tickets or dispatching, you didn't really solve any problems. We need to be able to resolve problems in-house. The other option you have is we do provide outsource network monitoring. So if you don't want those headaches, you can certainly rely on somebody like us to provide that 24/7 NOC service. Benefit from our expertise. Again, we've been doing it for over a decade. Power users of the Cordell product line, so that even the Cordell product line, we enjoy them so much, or depend on them so much, that we actually acquired them in 2019. They're such an intricate part of our systems, and we wanted to ensure that long-term success of that product. So you can do it yourself, or you can outsource it. We hope that you outsource it for us. With that, I think we're about done here. If that's done, Audrey, are there any questions out there? We can't really see the screen.
There are no questions yet, but please go ahead and drop any questions that you have in the chat box. I have one for you to get started. How many staff do you need to staff 24/7?
So initially, when we started the NOC, so we could be 24/7, we had a staff of 7. We had 1 supervisor, 5 Tech 1s, and 1 Tech 2. And I will tell you, initially, within the first 6 months, we lost 1 guy. And so that was rough. It was hard to have 24/7 coverage with only 5 of us technicians. And I would not recommend it. It was very difficult. And then there was no vacation, no sick time. You couldn't get sick. You had to come to work.
Life happens, though.
Yeah,
we're going to have babies. We're going to have, even the fathers are taking maternity leave.
Yeah. So at minimum we had to have 5. 5 was as little as we could go as far as technicians, and then that's not sustainable though.
I see. But 17 today.
We have 17, and we try to maintain. Not even try to maintain. We maintain at minimum 2 people per shift at all times. There's never anybody here alone, and then we actually try to get upwards of 3 to 6 people on shift. It just depends on the shift, because certain shifts, maintenances for the overnight guys, daytime you just get your typical, phone calls trying to deal with new turn-ups and things. Actually just maintenance setup and whatnot during the day.
Awesome. What else, Audrey? Any others?
Do you have run books for operational procedures?
We do. We don't actually run a typical run book, but we do use a knowledge base, and we've basically brought all of our information into one place that our technicians can use and verify that they're following the correct procedures. As we have multiple clients, everybody does things a little bit differently. So we use this knowledge base, and it documents everything as best as we can. We try to not have gray areas. Gray areas can get you in some trouble. And we've spent hours developing this knowledge base and keeping it updated. And so we try to document everything as thoroughly as possible, from procedures and call outs and just any information that we need.
So that knowledge base is not only just for Nex-Tech, but our clients. Each client has their own knowledge base, because when we troubleshoot, it's often you kind of do the same steps, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3, and why not let somebody that's available to walk through those steps? So awesome.